Chapter number 1. The Boy Who Loved Machines, 1863 to 1880. He was born, not in a city of lights, but in the quiet fields of Michigan. The year, 1863. The middle of the American Civil War. A world divided, yet a baby was born who would one day unite it, through movement. Henry Ford, the first son of William and Mary Ford, a farm boy among 6 children, a boy expected to plow, sow, and feed. But Henry's eyes did not rest on soil. They searched the horizon, longing for something faster, something louder, something alive with steel and fire. By day, he carried water, fed chickens, chopped wood. By night, he stared into the sky. Why does life move so slowly? Why do our hands bleed when machines could work for us? At 12 years old, the answer appeared. A farmer brought a steam engine into the village. It hissed, it roared, gears clashed like thunder. The ground trembled, and Henry's soul trembled with it. This was no horse. This was power. A man's labor reduced from hours to minutes. Henry watched for hours, touched the hot steel, and whispered, "I want to build machines." From that day, he was never the same. He collected broken watches, scrap metal, loose gears and discarded springs. In a shed by his house, he built his first little engine. His hands were black with oil, but his eyes glowed brighter than fire. His father, William, shook his head. "Farming is life. Farming is survival. Leave these toys." But Henry's mother, Mary, smiled softly. "Follow the light inside you, Henry." Then the storm struck. When Henry was 13, Mary died. The heart of the home was gone. Henry wept for days, refusing food, refusing comfort. But her words stayed. Follow the light inside you. At 16, he followed it. He packed his small bag. He kissed the farm goodbye. And he walked to Detroit, not away from home, but toward destiny. In the roaring city, he became an apprentice machinist. 10, 12 hours a day, he cleaned gears, tightened bolts, polished steel. For $2.50 a week. It was enough. Because every spark, every whistle of steam, every moving piston fed his soul. No college. No parties. No mentors. Just machines, and an endless hunger to understand them. Henry Ford was no longer just a boy. He was a boy becoming a builder. Vocabulary highlights. Chapter 1. Apprentice. A learner working under skilled guidance. Obsession. An idea or feeling that controls the mind. Tremble. To shake from strong emotion or force. Destiny. The future that feels meant to be. Piston. A moving engine part that pushes with force. Reflection questions. Chapter 1. What moment first awakened Henry's passion for machines? How did his mother influence his path? Why did Henry leave the farm at 16? Which vocabulary word describes his journey best? Chapter number 2. The First Failure, the First Fire, 1880 to 1903. Detroit in the 1880s. Smoke rising from chimneys. Machines roaring in factories. Men sweating through fire and steel. This was the age of industry, and Henry Ford was exactly where he belonged. While others repaired machines, Henry dreamed of building one. Not just any machine, but one that could move itself, without horses, without limits. People laughed. If God wanted men to move fast, he would give them wheels. Horseless carriages? A joke for the rich. Engines explode. Engines fail. Engines are dangerous. But Henry didn't argue. He built. By day, he worked for Edison Illuminating Company. An engineer, fixing electrical systems. earning respect. By night, in a small shed behind his home, he burned the midnight oil. Steel rods, bicycle wheels, a tiny engine. Hours of grinding, hammering, testing. His back ached. His fingers bled. But his heart burned. On June 4, 1896, the impossible moved. The quadricycle. For bicycle wheels, a small gasoline engine, a steering lever. It rattled, it coughed, but it rolled. Henry's hands shook. Tears welled. It moves, it really moves. There was one problem. The car was too wide to exit the shed. So Henry grabbed an axe and tore down the wall. Sometimes, to set a dream free, you must break the walls that confine it. That day, a seed was planted. Later that year, fate seated him across from the world's greatest inventor, Thomas Edison. Henry explained his vision, a car for the common man. Edison slammed the table. "Young man, that's the thing. Keep at it. Gas cars are the future." Edison's words were fire. Henry didn't sleep that night. The dream now roared louder than ever. By 1899, Henry gathered investors. The Detroit Automobile Company was born. Finally, a factory. Finally, resources. Finally, recognition. But dreams can betray if they grow too heavy. The cars were weak, unreliable, too expensive. Henry kept changing designs. Production slowed. Investors grew angry. 18 months later, the company collapsed. The newspapers mocked him. "We told you, he's just a dreamer." Henry was humiliated. No job, no company, no future. But failure did not break him. It fueled him. He whispered to himself, "Next time, I will not build for investors. I will build for the people." He returned to his shed. No workers, no tools, only belief. This time, he built not for comfort, but for speed. The 999 racing car. A beast of fire and steel. 80 horsepower. A roaring monster. In 1901, the 999 entered the racetrack. Engines screamed. Crowds roared. And Henry's creation destroyed the competition. The newspapers called him the Wizard of the Car World. Investors returned. Support returned. But Henry had changed. This time, he had a clear mission. "I will not build cars for kings. I will build cars for workers, for teachers, for families. I will build cars for the people." And on June 16, 1903, Ford Motor Company was born. Vocabulary highlights, Chapter 2. Illuminate, to light up or make clear. Quadricycle, Henry Ford's first car with 4 wheels. Investor, a person who gives money to a project or company. Collapse, sudden failure or breakdown. Horsepower, a unit measuring engine strength. Reflection questions, Chapter 2. What made the quadricycle so important in Henry's journey? How did Thomas Edison inspire Henry Ford? Why did Henry's first company fail? What lesson can we learn from the 999 racing car? Chapter number 3. The Model T Revolution, 1903 to 1927. Ford Motor Company was small in the beginning. A rented building on Mack Avenue. A handful of workers. And a dream bigger than its walls. The first car they built was the Model A. It sold well. But Henry was restless. "This is not enough," he said. "I want a car so simple, so strong, so cheap, that any man with a good salary will own one." His investors doubted him. Why make cars for workers, when the rich will pay more? But Henry smiled. The future belongs to the many, not the few. So he kept building. Model B, C, D, each better than the last. But in secret, he was obsessed with one idea. A car for everyone. A car for the dirt roads of America. A car that could last, be fixed easily, and keep moving. In 1908, his dream roared to life. The Model T. 4 cylinders. Top speed 45 miles per hour. 20 miles per gallon. A steel body tough enough for farmers and families. And a price of $850, lower than almost any car of the time. It wasn't pretty. Critics laughed. They called it Tin Lizzie. But the people didn't care. They wanted freedom. And the Model T gave it. Orders exploded. Within weeks, Ford was drowning in demand. Workers could hardly keep up. But Henry had another idea, an idea more powerful than the car itself. In 1913, he introduced the moving assembly line. Before this, a team of men built one car slowly, part by part. It took 12 hours to complete a single car. But Henry flipped the process. Now the car moved from worker to worker, each man doing one simple task. Wheels here, engine there, seats there. Step by step, the car rolled to completion. The result? 12 hours became 90 minutes. Production exploded. Costs dropped. And the price of the Model T fell again and again. From $850 in 1908 to $600 in 1912 to $440 in 1919 and eventually just $260. Now even factory workers could buy the cars they'd built. But Henry wasn't done. In 1914, he shocked the world. At a time when most companies paid $2.50 a day, Henry announced a new wage. From now on, my workers will earn $5 a day. Businessmen called him insane. Paying workers double? He'll go bankrupt. But Henry smiled again. He knew the truth. Workers who are respected work harder. Workers who are paid well stay loyal. And workers who earn enough buy the cars they build. It was genius. Productivity soared. Turnover dropped. Factories became stable. And Ford became a household name. By 1918, half the cars in America were Fords. By the 1920s, more than 15 million Model Ts had been sold worldwide. For the first time in history, ordinary people were mobile. Farmers could reach towns. Women could travel alone. Goods could be delivered faster. Families could visit relatives miles away. The world was no longer slow. The world was moving. And one name was at the center of it all. Henry Ford. Vocabulary highlights. Chapter 3. Assembly line. A production method where products move past workers who each had a part. Critic. Someone who judges or points out flaws. Productivity. How much work is done in a certain time. Household name. A person or brand known by almost everyone. Loyal. Showing trust and long-lasting support. Reflection questions. Chapter 3. Why was the Model T so revolutionary compared to earlier cars? How did the assembly line change the world beyond cars? Why did Henry Ford decide to double his workers' pay? Which lesson from this chapter applies most to your own life? Chapter number 4. The Empire and the Ego, 1914-1930s. The Model T was unstoppable. Factories roared day and night. By the 1920s, Ford Motor Company was the most powerful car maker in the world. Henry Ford's personal wealth soared past $100 million. In today's value, billions. He could buy land, build cities, hire thousands. He was not just a businessman. He was an empire. And he wanted to rule it like a king. In 1917, Henry began building something the world had never seen. The River Rouge complex in Dearborn, Michigan. A factory so massive, it became a city within a city. It had its own steel mill, glass factory, power plant, hospital, even its own police force. Raw ore entered one end. A finished car rolled out the other. It was the most advanced industrial facility on Earth. Henry hadn't just built cars. He had built a machine that made machines. But as his empire grew, so did his ego. He stopped listening to advice. He rejected new designs. He insisted the Model T was perfect. When customers begged for color, he famously said, "Any customer can have a car painted any color, so long as it is black." Black was fast to dry. Black kept costs low. But black was also boring. And by the mid-1920s, customers were moving away. Competitors like Chevrolet and Chrysler offered style, speed, and choice. Ford's sales began to fall. But Henry refused to change. He was stuck in the past, blind to the future. Inside his empire, storms were rising too. Two of his early investors, the Dodge brothers, sued him. They claimed Ford was hoarding profits and mistreating shareholders. The court ruled against him. Henry was furious. So he made a bold move. "I will buy them all out," he said. And he did. In 1919, Henry and his son Edsel purchased every share. Ford Motor Company became 100% family-owned. Now Henry was absolute ruler. But power brings shadows. Henry created a private security force led by Harry Bennett, a former boxer. Bennett ruled with fists and fear. He spied on workers, punished rebels, and kept the factory in iron discipline. Meanwhile, Edsel Ford, Henry's only son, tried to bring elegance, modern design, and softer leadership. He wanted beauty in cars. Henry wanted simplicity. Father and son clashed silently. Respect remained, but so did frustration. And slowly, the empire Henry built began to feel less like a dream and more like a prison. By 1927, the truth could no longer be denied. Sales had collapsed. Competitors had surged ahead. The Model T, once a miracle, was now outdated. Henry finally gave the order. "Shut it down!" Factories stopped. Machinery was destroyed. The car that had changed the world, the car that sold more than 15 million units, was gone. The era of the Model T had ended, and a new battle was about to begin. Vocabulary highlights, Chapter 4. Complex. A large set of buildings or facilities. Ego. A person's sense of self-importance. Shareholder. Someone who owns part of a company. Absolute. Total, without limits. Prison. A place where freedom is trapped or limited. Reflection questions, Chapter 4. Why did Henry Ford insist the Model T was perfect? What was the importance of the River Rouge complex? How did the relationship between Henry and Edsel affect Ford's future? What lesson do we learn about the dangers of ego? Chapter number 5, War, Loss, and Legacy, 1930s, 1947. The 1930s arrived. And with them, storms far beyond Ford's factories. The world was sinking into economic depression. Nations trembled. And soon, war would cover the earth. Inside Ford Motor Company, another war was brewing. Not on the battlefield, but between father and son. Edsel Ford had grown into a gentle leader. Soft-spoken, artistic, respectful. He wanted cars with elegance, style, and comfort. He wanted Ford to modernize, to compete with General Motors and Chrysler. But Henry, older now, stubborn as steel, refused. The Model T was good enough. Simple is enough. Strength is enough. The two men clashed quietly. No shouting. Just long silences, and decisions overturned. Henry still held the final word, and Edsel carried the weight. But Edsel was also burdened by another shadow: Henry's trusted enforcer, Harry Bennett, a man with fists of iron, who ran the factory floor like a private army. He spied on workers. He punished rebels. Even Edsel could not escape his reach. Day after day, the pressure crushed Edsel's spirit. He smiled in public, but in private his health collapsed. Ulcers, exhaustion, anxiety. By the late 1930s, a new storm raged outside: World War II. At first, Henry resisted. He despised war. He called it the game of bankers and politicians. But when the United States entered the war in 1941, Ford Motor Company could not remain still. The government asked for tanks, trucks, engines, airplanes, machines not of peace, but of war. So Ford built Willow Run, the largest aircraft factory in the world. Its mission: to build the B-24 Liberator bomber. Experts said it couldn't be done. Too many parts. Too complex. But Ford had once built cars for the masses. Now he would build bombers for the army. By 1944, Willow Run was producing one bomber every hour. A miracle of industry. A factory that helped turn the tide of war. Ford had once put the world on wheels. Now he was putting wings in the sky. But even as the world celebrated, tragedy struck at home. Edsel Ford, broken by years of stress, weakened by ulcers, fighting illness in silence, died in 1943 at just 49 years old. The company wept. Workers stood in silence. Flags flew at half-mast. But no one wept more than Henry. The father who had built an empire had lost his only son, the partner he silenced, the heir he resisted, was gone forever. Henry blamed himself. He stopped shaving, stopped eating, walked alone in his gardens. The old lion has lost his heart, people whispered. Yet the war raged on, and Ford Motor Company could not stop. In 1945, Henry, now 82, frail and forgetful, was pressured by the government and his family. He could no longer lead. The empire needed new strength. So the torch passed to his grandson, Henry Ford II, only 28 years old, just returned from World War II. Young, determined, and ready to save the company. The old Henry stepped down. After 42 years of ruling, he released his grip. And 2 years later, on a stormy night in April 1947, the man who had set the world in motion took his final breath at Fair Lane, his estate in Dearborn. Lightning cracked the sky. The lights went out, and Henry Ford left the world in silence, at 83 years old. At his funeral, thousands gathered. Farmers, factory workers, presidents. They came not just to honor a car maker, but a world maker. Because Henry Ford had given more than machines. He had given movement. He had given hope. He had given ordinary people the freedom to travel, to dream, to reach beyond the farm and into the future. Vocabulary highlights, Chapter 5. Depression, a severe economic downturn. Ulcer, a painful wound inside the body caused by stress. Enforcer, someone who maintains order through force or fear. Liberator, the name of Ford's bomber plane, also meaning one who sets free. Heir, the person meant to inherit or take over a legacy. Reflection questions, Chapter 5. Why did Henry resist entering World War II production at first? What made Willow Run Factory so extraordinary? How did Henry's relationship with Edsel shape the company's story? What emotions do you feel when you hear of Henry's final night? Chapter number 6. The lessons we carry, today and forever. Henry Ford is gone, but his spirit still moves through time. Not just in factories, not just in cars, but in every dreamer who refuses to quit. Today, Ford Motor Company is one of the largest automakers in the world. Over 3.5% of cars on U.S. roads carry the Ford badge. Globally, more than 16 million vehicles are sold every year under Ford's vision and its partner brands. Factories stretch across 6 continents, from Michigan to Mexico, from Germany to China. The name still shines. But Ford's legacy is not just metal and engines. It is belief. A belief that one farm boy could change the world. A belief that ordinary people deserve extraordinary freedom. A belief that failure is not the end, but the beginning of invention. Henry once said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." These words live beyond him. They whisper in every workshop. They echo in every classroom. They breathe in every person who dares to try. Think of it. The boy who once hated feeding chickens became the man who fed the future with wheels. The man who broke the wall of his shed to let his first car roll out, broke open the walls of history. The leader who doubled his workers' wages proved that respecting people brings loyalty, power, and progress. Yes, Henry was flawed, stubborn, sometimes blind, often difficult. But his lessons still shine like headlights in the dark. Lessons to carry. Dreams start small. He began in a shed, not a palace. Failure is fuel. His first company collapsed. He built again. Build for the people. Cars for workers, not kings. Systems matter. The assembly line was greater than the Model T. Respect workers. When they thrive, the company thrives. Don't let ego rule. Even kings can lose their crown. Legacy is not machines. Legacy is the people who move because of you. And you listening now, you are not so different from Henry Ford. You may not have millions. You may not have a factory. But you have a dream. And that dream is enough. Because the truth is this. The world is still waiting for your invention, for your courage, for your belief. Henry Ford gave the world motion, but you can give the world something it has never seen before. So take his story, take his lessons, take his mistakes, and drive forward. Because if he could rise from nothing and leave a legacy that still moves millions, so can you. This is not the end of Ford's story. It is the beginning of yours. Vocabulary highlights. Chapter 6. Legacy. What is left behind after someone dies? Echo. A sound that repeats or carries on. Fuel. Something that gives energy or power. Assembly line. A process where products are built step by step in sequence. Flawed. Having weaknesses or imperfections. Reflection questions. Chapter 6. What is the most powerful lesson you take from Henry Ford's story? Do you agree with his belief? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Why? How can you apply Ford's example of persistence in your own life? If you could build something for the people, what would it be? The end is just the beginning. Silence before the next symphony. You've just traveled through the life of Henry Ford. A boy with no money, no connections, no safety net, who dared to believe in machines and in himself. From a broken shed to the world's greatest factories. From failure and rejection to millions of cars on the road. From loneliness to a legacy that still moves us today. But this story was never just about him. It is about you. Your belief, your persistence, your courage to keep building, even when the world laughs. Remember Henry's words. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So think you can. Believe you can. Move forward. Because one day your story may become the road that others travel on. If this story touched your heart, If it helped your English, if it gave you strength to dream, then join us. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories, more lessons, more inspiration, more English that lives in your soul. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of yours. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and never stop believing.